neither had cast a vote for weeks or months to rush back and both vote for TARP funds and bail out the country. So that attitude still exists. So the emergency attitude really makes the people, so receptive to having more government. So when emergencies come, whether it's the North Koreans who are about to attack us, and they report just the other day, the North Koreans are soon going to be able to launch a missile and bomb us with a nuclear bomb. And of course, we knew that Saddam Hussein was on the verge of doing that. So it's always intimidation and fear, and it puts the pressure on the members of Congress. They capitulate because the people get terrified too. But because it's surprising we don't have better results because we have this independent media and they're always giving us the truth. You'd think we would figure this out a little sooner, but no, that doesn't happen. They continue and the people do get frightened. They hear the government saying the end is coming. So this is what's going to happen. I mean, the national debt will be increased. But you can say, well, there'll be a victory anyway because they're going to promise after they raise the national debt that they're going to cut some spending. And they're going to cut the spending. You know, it reminds me of what happened in the 80s, and I know Ronald Reagan was a beloved president, but if you look at the statistics, things didn't all that much improve in the 1980s. But he had an agreement. He says, yes, we remember him cutting tax rates, which was very good. I was all for that. But he raised taxes 3 times, maybe 4 times, that more than made up for the tax decreases. But on one occasion, he agreed to have a tax increase. And that bill was passed, it was originated in the Senate, came back to the House, was passed under the suspension of the rules, and it wasn't allowed to be amended, which sort of contradicts the Constitution. They're supposed to originate in the House and then go to the Senate. But Reagan's agreement was this: for every dollar that we raise in taxes, you will cut $2 worth of spending. It just didn't happen that way. Percentage-wise and statistically, the deficit just deteriorated in the 1980s. And so we can expect the national debt to be increased because nobody wants to end the world. Most of us are supportive of keeping the world going, and they're going to be made fearful. So whether it's the fear of the foreign enemies or the fear of our neighbors because of all the scrutiny that we have to have of all our neighbors because there may be a terrorist lurking behind the bushes someplace, so therefore we have to sacrifice our liberties. We have to pass the Patriot Act and secret prisons, threat of assassination, giving up the writ of habeas corpus, and on and on. And it's all based on fear because people, for the most part, are just so intimidated and can't believe that some of these problems could be solved without government. But the good news is that our numbers who believe otherwise, our numbers are growing, and that's helpful. One area that was really a pleasant surprise to me, occurring from the time of the presidential election up until now, the difference between 3 years ago or 5 years ago or 10 years ago. As Lou mentioned, I got interested in politics after the obvious setting of the stage for the problems we have today, and that was the elimination of any restraints on the secret Federal Reserve to create as much money and credit as it wanted secretly without any supervision of the Congress, occurring August 15th, 1971. But we've had this come, and now we are facing this great crisis, which is a financial crisis and a dollar crisis. But the people now are so much more interested. Back then, before 71, after 71, the Federal Reserve always got the credit. They got the credit for full employment and booming times. and then there was an automatic or a necessary slump, the market demanding a slump or recession or liquidation, it would occur and the Fed would get credit for getting us out of the slump. I mean, and they've had it and nobody questioned them. But the Fed was there to provide and take care of everybody. The Congress didn't care about understanding it. They probably subtly knew, we can spend money and we can tax a bit and we can borrow, but somehow or another the Fed takes care of it. And we don't want to know too much about it. And they had a free ride for all this time until, 2008, and they haven't. And now, because of the educational effort at the grassroots level, because of the internet, and by bringing this forward publicly, the people are so much more aware of it, and the Federal Reserve is now understood much more better than ever before. And I had the awakening moment, which I mentioned in my book, and the Fed it occurred at the University of Michigan. We went over to the University of Michigan after we had a debate in Detroit, and it had to do with economic policy, and that was where he said the economy wasn't doing all that well. And that was a no-no because we were talking about a Republican administration, and you're not supposed to do that. So we went over, and the big surprise at the University of Michigan, there was a huge crowd. And I was late because of the debates and traffic and that sort of thing. But they hung around, and that was where they started chanting, "End the Fed, end the Fed." So the name of my book wasn't very original. They gave me the title, but they were really disobeying the law because it's against the law to deface the currency. You can destroy its value, but don't deface the currency. So that was when they were destroying the currency. They started burning Federal Reserve notes right out in public. So no, it is different, and we've gotten their attention. Who would have ever dreamed that the Federal Reserve would have to hire PR people to go around and lobbyists to go around and explain to congressmen how good they were and get on national TV, and the chairman of the Federal Reserve defending himself was he on Jon Stewart or some program like that? I mean, this is pretty amazing. We have them on the run. They're on the defensive. So let's keep the charge going. And, I don't know if you heard, but I have been made a chairman of a subcommittee on monetary policy. Now, they tell me in Washington I'm a very patient person. After 30 years and being denied the committee 3 different times, all of a sudden, I'm the subcommittee chairman. The other day we had an organization meeting and a few things came to light. One was that subcommittee chairman cannot demand that the chairman of the Federal Reserve or the Secretary of the Treasury come before the subcommittee. It has to go before the full committee. But we'll still send out some invitations and see what the consequence will be. But they also had we had all the Republicans. This was not the full committee. So all the Republicans got together, and we got, the subcommittee chairman got to say a couple words about the committee. So my committee, my subcommittee is considered the smallest, most insignificant committee, and it's always been. It's very small, and nobody's ever wanted to be on it, and nobody ever paid attention. In the past, they would have 2 or 3 meetings a year, and they would talk about what they're going to do with the dollar bill. It costs too much to keep printing them, and how are we going to get the American people to use coinage instead of paper? And what should we do with the penny? And what do we do with this commemorative coin? And even though that was pretty boring, I always got on a subcommittee because I considered, the monetary unit to be pretty important. So when they came to me down the line, last one, they said, Ron Paul is chairman of the Monetary Policy Subcommittee. So I said, well, thank you. And I looked around and I looked at our chairman and I said, is it true that this committee has charge of the Federal Reserve? And they admitted that it was, and they knew exactly what was going on. But I tried to explain to them. I tried to explain to them that you don't realize it, but this is the most important committee in the